Woman who gave the creep a chance. How did it go? After a few dates he started to get way too serious. I told him calmly and honestly that I wasn't ready for a serious relationship and he deserved to be with someone who was. He completely flipped shit, and after a bit of name calling I stood up and started to leave the bar. He then said, "You should watch yourself in the future. Especially when getting into your car." I was extremely paranoid for months after. Would check my back seat and under my vehicle. Never saw him again, so just an empty threat, but not a fun time. That was like 15 years ago. Yeah, he's still single. What's the worst you've ever been cock-blocked or beaver damned? I was waiting for a flight, was at the bar and started talking to a girl. After 3 hours of drinking and heavy flirting, she straight up told me to watch for her going to the bathroom during the flight, and follow her there, and we joined the Mile High Club. Boarding time comes, she's 20 people ahead of me in the check line, she goes on, I'm excited. I hand the gate agent my ticket. She says I've been bumped from the flight because they overbooked and I was last to book, so I'm on the next flight. I try to tell her that I have to be on this flight, because I just do. Doesn't matter. I'm off. I'm now a 21-year-old hammered guy that just almost had every dude's fantasy come true. Oh, and it's now 3 a.m. in Seattle Airport and everything is closed and I just have to sit and stare at the devil woman that just took away my heart, and I know she knows and did it on purpose. I was cock-blocked by Delta Airlines, and I will never forgive them. Ever. What is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? In a time of deep emotional distress in my life, I wandered into a church. I was feeling helpless and couldn't think of anywhere else to go. I'm an agnostic, so church isn't exactly my comfort zone, but at the time I worked downtown and there's this really beautiful ancient Catholic church down there. I was pregnant and I'd had an appointment that day and they'd said I was going to have an amniocentesis test done. I was terrified and felt very lost. I was just wandering around downtown, and I found myself outside the church, so I went in. I wandered up towards the front and just poured myself out. I cried and cried. I don't remember any praying. No clear thoughts. Just grief and fear for my baby that manifested as this deep mournful crying. And then, this incredible warmth washed over me. It literally felt like someone poured warm water over me starting at the top of my head. I remember being startled by the sensation. It flowed over my entire body. I calmed down almost immediately, my mind cleared and I felt confident that whatever happened it was going to be okay. And it was. That was 25 years ago and the baby is now a very happy, healthy grown man. I'm still not religious. But something comforted me that day, and whatever it was, I can't explain it, but it was real. And I'm grateful. What is an unspoken, universal rule all males know? You can shake and you can dance, but the last drops always end up in your pants. If anything is floating in the toilet when you pee, it instantly becomes a target. Every time you grab the tongs, click them twice to make sure they work. The wide step. You all know. The nod. When leaving you must smack your pockets to make sure everything is there. Always cup your hands in the shower and let it go once it fills up. Who had the biggest fall from grace in history? Fritz Haber. A German chemist and Nobel Prize winner, he helped pioneer the Haber process for synthesizing ammonia. This is important, because it was a key ingredient in artificial fertilizer. His actions enabled the world to feed itself, allowing us to grow food that outstrips the consumption of humanity, making sure no one died of famine ever again. It was now possible to feed the world thanks to him, and he laid the groundwork for further developments when, at the time, much of the world was still illiterate and ruled by kings. He saved countless lives from hunger, unlocking a piece of science that changed the face of organic chemistry forever. Then came the First World War. If he were a sorcerer, it would be as if he turned to the darkest of arts. After saving the world, he then turned his mind to destroying it. He invented chemical warfare, designed chemical weapons from scratch, unleashed chlorine gas, and founded an entire dark science that bore the weight of sarin, phosphorus, chlorine, and other unholy weapons of war used by war criminals and tyrants for the next century. He led brigades devoted to chemical war, recruited other renowned scientists to his cause, and turned the science most devoted to creation and change for the betterment of humanity, into a weapon. In my mind, he is the greatest fall from grace. From one of humanity's greatest, to one its most forsaken. People who speak a second language. What have you overheard people saying about you when they thought you couldn't understand? One evening, I called an Uber driven by Abdelatif. Mr. Abdelatif, an Egyptian, was nice enough at the start, but then took a phone call from an Arabic-speaking friend of his and started complaining very colorfully about his day. He eventually finished his rant by stating that he would head home after he takes this one last ibn Kihib, bad Arabic slur, in his car home. I, of course, didn't drop the ruse and pretended that my Uber driver didn't just loudly, and quite needlessly, insult me to this random person on the phone. When we finally arrived, he told me to have a nice evening, sir. I told him Tisib Hili Yaru, the gist of which is, good night, and walked away, putting on my best display of being highly offended, even though I was dying from laughter on the inside after seeing the look on his face. Weeks later, I took another Uber, driven by Mr. Badri, an Iraqi. He seemed like he had a lot of trouble with English over the phone, so I started the ride off by greeting him in Arabic. He was quickly at ease, and was surprised that I spoke Arabic so fluently for a white American. I explained I was only half Egyptian and that was probably why I didn't look like your stereotypical Middle Easterner. He laughed, and said it reminded him of a story his Egyptian friend, also an Uber driver, told him, about the time he picked up this white guy that turned out to speak perfect Arabic. I asked him his friend's name. It was Abdelatif. It's a dark secret you want to get off of your chest. A friend goes on and on about how many Twitch followers he has and how he's getting so big as a streamer, etc. He doesn't know that most of his followers and viewers are me. He was so depressed that nobody was tuning in that I used a Google Workspace account and a ton of aliases to spawn Twitch accounts to follow and watch them. It's gotten out of control though, and he keeps trying to lord it over our friend group how many viewers and followers. Not sure how to proceed, because he was pretty depressed before I created all the followers, and I worry he'll get depressed again if I slowly stop doing it. For people asking, I'm not going to post the stream link. It wouldn't do anything healthy for him to see a big hit of viewers at this point, and I don't need him googling himself and finding his way to this post. It's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers on Reddit. When I was 14, my grandma passed away. For years, I had been bothering my parents for my own gold necklace. Well, Gram had a little bit of money and she gave me the $300 for a gold necklace in her will. It was my pride and joy. I had it around my neck for 17 years before I met my wife. It was off my neck maybe 3 times in those 17 years. My wife knew how much it meant to me and asked to wear it once. Well, it never came home. She had lost it somewhere or it had gotten stolen. I was distraught like crazy for 3 or 4 days while we turned our house upside down looking for it. Inevitably, I gave up, but she was very bothered by it all. So, I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest I could get to an exact duplicate, and then I told her that I had found the necklace in the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks that I found my necklace from my grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Tomorrow, I'm going to ruin his life. I have been with him for 3 years now. We planned on getting married when our lives settled down. I wanted to start a family with him. I loved him more than anyone else in this world. I've sacrificed so much for him, moved away from my home, turned down jobs so I could stay with him, and stood by his side as he started to go back to school. I gave him my world. And he cheats on me. I found out over a month ago. The scumbag got cocky, and I found out he was cheating on me, with 2 different women. One is a TA at his university, the other his best friend's girlfriend. I am livid. I write this post choking back venom. I loved him so much. He was my world, but now he will be the world I burn to nothing but ash. I pay for everything since he quit his job last year to go to school. I was more than happy to help him. I make enough to support us both. The only upside is the student loans are in his name with no connection to me. It will hurt to push the scumbag out to sea, but I will survive. I have held out for a month, enough time to create what I call the day his world burns. Tomorrow we are hosting a party. I arranged for his family to come, but my family will sadly not be able to make it. I have packed everything valuable already, and the suitcase is in the back of my car. My brother will come during the event tomorrow, to take the car that is in my name that the dirtbag drives to my parents' house. The joint account, which is all my money anyway, is already empty. The event will be great, and he thinks it's for us to announce our engagement to his family. What will happen in reality is I will announce my departure from his life. I have already taken a job out of state, and have lined up a new place to live. I will start by telling everyone what he is into. The screenshots of him asking his friend's girlfriend to piss on him, and the many other fantasies his degenerate mind came up with will be passed around. I will hand him the notice to vacate, as I have already broken our lease. We need to be out by the end of the month. I will then end off by informing him I have already reported he was sleeping with a TA for one of his classes the previous semester to the university, and that I am sad I won't see the fallout from that. His friend also has a message for him that I will deliver, informing him that his friend group never wants to see him again as well. And with that, I will leave. I will not look back. I will set his life on fire and walk away.